So things like understanding how the supply chain worked. So where did this thing come from, this product or service or commodity? Take, for instance, see you've got a phone. So here's a phone here, right? For the listeners, I'm picking up an iPhone. And we go out and buy this phone, we use it as a piece of technology. But when you look at the supply chains, there's lithium that came from a mine to make the battery. There's a semiconductor that most likely came from Taiwan. There's camera components that were made and assembled in China. And where did the metals and things come from the phone to piece it together? So you'll find that there'll be pieces from Taiwan, pieces from China, commodities that were dug out of ground in Australia. You probably got lithium that came from Africa. And all these things went together to put in this one phone. I mean, you realise that this thing's much, much bigger than you believe, because we look at it and we just see a phone. So what you've done is you started to work out what the supply chain looked like for a particular thing. So say, for instance, your gold's getting a lot of news now because gold's broke its all-time high record for the highest price it's ever been. So say you want to buy a piece of gold or jewellery or a gold bullion or a gold bar. You purchase the bar and you're buying it from a broker or a bullion dealer, but that bullion dealer will buy it probably most likely from the mint or a refinery, and the refinery will then buy that from a miner or someone else within the supply chain that wholesales the gold, or from the mining operation that then gets sent to the refiners. And that gold miner might be either digging that out the ground himself and refining the product, as you've maybe seen on the Gold Rush programs famous on Discovery Channel. You will see that has a process. So before there's land that's getting moved, dirt's getting excavated, it's getting run through a trommel, then that's then shipped, the tails are shipped out of the back of the machinery to then get this sort of gold laced sort of earth that's then further refined and then further refined and then further refined until he's got these gold flakes. They melt them down to remove the impurities. That then creates a block that they will sell, that then they sell to the wholesalers. They'll sell it to the refinery. They'll refine it and then make it into gold bars. Then it ends up at your bullion dealer and then they sell it to you. So there's a supply chain. But you wouldn't have believed that. So you wouldn't have believed it was that complicated. But when you start to look at these things, you realise there's a degree of complexity that you maybe didn't quite understand. And it can be too hard to diversify all your attention to all the things that are out there. What you need to do is hone your attention and focus on one particular thing so you can become an expert in it. And in the case of gold, you would want to understand how gold miners operate. What operating costs do they have? Is that better than investing in gold itself as the commodity? Is there more upside than investing in the gold miner versus the gold commodity, or is there a downside risk? And that can relate to many factors. So what you're starting to do is you start with one particular thing and you're spreading out your knowledge to find out where the boundaries and edges of that are, so that you can then become a master or very knowledgeable on that particular thing. What you aren't doing is you aren't spreading yourself too thinly. You're then becoming a student of that particular part so that you can become an expert in that part. And once you do that, you'll work out things like, the supply chain start to finish. You'll work out what influences the price of whatever it is that you're doing, what industry that involves or industries, which sectors are involved, which currency that it's traded in, where the main players are in terms of their geolocation around the world. So you'll want to understand things like, an easy one would be like, for instance, if you were investing in Africa, if you were wanting to buy a gold mine in Africa, what's the geopolitical situation? How likely is the government to have a coup d'etat or some issues in terms of, insurgencies, crime rate, how easy it is to trade, what their court system like, and so on. So you develop these skills where you become a little detective, figuring out what the processes are that are involved in the thing that you're doing. Now, bringing that back, because that's obviously a more complicated version of what most people would deal with, unless they wanted to become an investor in multiple asset classes. And you can certainly do that. And that would be a great place to start. And certainly